The State of the Union is supposed to be a gathering where the President of the United States sits back and talks to members of Congress, the Supreme Court, all of our big military men and women in the United States military, and the entire United States of America. The public, the State of the Union. I've covered many of those State of the Union addresses, and we're supposed to find out what is the state of our union. But based upon the recent State of the Union address, where we had some women in there screaming and hollering and going on like that, we began to wonder, are women in Congress out of control? And what really is the state of our union? Hello and welcome to FFT World TV and GFN Soul NYC FM. I'm Robert Ashley, and we welcome you to another edition of the Robert Ashley Report, where we do news and commentary. Well, once again, the State of the Union. The recently delivered message from President Donald Trump, it was very interesting. We had some members of Congress standing up on behalf of the American people, whereas others were sitting down, seemingly showing more concern, more compassion, more of a commitment to illegal immigrants. Now, the President of the United States, Donald John Trump, kind of a interesting, tricky, but yet seemingly intelligent, but yet hood-educated brother. Now, many of you don't understand President Trump. He has a very interesting history going into the black community many years ago. I'd say back in the 80s and 90s. Did you know that there were a lot of rap songs that President Trump was mentioned in? And some people say, well, he's been mentioned in over 1,000 rap songs. But the State of the Union, that's what we're talking about. And when I intimate that the president had some degree of blackness involved, you've got to check his history, because when members of Congress refuse to stand up for our fellow Americans, refuse to stand up for a little girl who survived a tragic accident involving an illegal immigrant driving a truck he had no business driving, and Democrats, what in the world wrong with you guys? I mean, are you pro-democratic and you're not pro-America? Do you put the party in front of the country? What kind of sickness is that? That's not the Democratic Party that many of us are familiar with. You remember Scoop Jackson, Tip O'Neill. Those were Democrats that basically put the country before the party. But the Democrats that we have now, it's kind of sad and it's kind of sickening, whether you agree or disagree. It seems like the Democrats are placing their party and whoever giving them their marching orders, putting that before the country. And in light of the State of the Union address, to hear the president talk and challenge people to stand up, and then to see Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, two of our women of color who are in Congress. Now, they're representing pretty much Muslims. And if you know anything about the Quran, there are a lot of Muslims who are here to peacefully coexist. But according to their particular book, the Quran, that's not going to be the case in terms of totality. In the end, the Muslim community feels like they have a right to overthrow and just take control of any given location that they're located on the planet. But here in America, that could lead to a holy war. That could lead to jihad within America. And also in light of the bombing there in Iran, and the fact that we are at some degree of an undeclared war, that State of the Union address and all of that hollering and screaming and all that kind of stuff that went on really sets a tone in our country that could very well be devastating. Now, we've got to find a way internally to continue to be the United States of America, or else we could be fragmented and lose the very freedoms that we have here in America. So as we look at just some of the reaction to the State of the Union involving our president, ladies, we continue to plead with you. Let's be under control. Ilhan Omar and, of course, Rashida Tlaib, we know that you're very vocal. We've seen you manifest your vocalization throughout your careers. But when it comes down to the State of the Union, let's try to be on one accord, because if we're not on one accord, the fracture of the unity of this country could very well lead to its very internal destruction.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens, in many cases drug lords murderers all over our country. They're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act. To stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. The cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant.
Once again, the State of the Union. Now, we all have freedom of expression. We all have freedom of speech. And I would not want to deny Ilhan Omar or either Rashida Tlaib the right to have their say. These are members of Congress. They have been elected by their given communities. And that's what America is all about. But if you have a religion that is not consistent with the Constitution and your religion calls for the overthrow of the United States of America and other religions that you don't agree with, you're just begging for some kind of internal civil war. So in light of what happened at the State of the Union address, let this be a teachable moment that if we don't get this country under control and have some sense of unity to undergird us all, we could very well threaten our own existence. Well, once again, you've been watching the Robert Ashley Show right here on FFT World TV and, of course, GFN Soul NYC FM, where we do news and commentary. And don't forget about our radio component, the best in the throwback music. And, of course, on our channels, on our Amazon Fire TV channel, as well as our Roku TV channel, you can get our radio stations. You can get GFN Soul NYC FM, and also we've got a gospel radio station that you can also listen to and worship the Lord, if you will. But once again, on behalf of FFT World TV and GFN Soul NYC FM, I'm Robert Ashley.